OU's gearing up for their very first SEC game. Are they ready? We're going to discuss. Plus, we'll break down the top 10, who's in and who's left out, plus a special edition of what pisses Dalton off. It's all coming up. The breakdown starts now. Welcome to the Midweek College Football Breakdown. My name is the Ant-Man, your host. Brandon is in some hammock down in Cancun right now, lounging on the beach, maybe passed out. I can't confirm or deny that right now. So it's just me and Dalton hanging out on today's episode. Dalton, good to be hanging out with you, bud. Good to see you.
Yeah, Ant-Man, it's great to be back here. I got to say, I think this might be the first time since Unc and I have started the podcast that we've done it without him. So it's kind of weird. Oh, wow. But I know talking to him and Aunt Kelly before they left, he's like, this is the most he's been excited about a vacation. So I'm happy for him and them and their whole family's there. So we definitely miss him this week, but it is great to be hanging out with you. I hope they're having a great week, and it's a big week.
It is a big week. I think before we get into this, I think I just realized why the real reason Brandon asked me to be a part of this, so he could go on vacation. He could just take off. Hey, I'm going on vacation. Can you be a part of it? Yeah.
That's funny. I disagree, but that is really funny that you put that together. The timing does, timing does leave the question.
It's conspicuous for sure. Yeah. Let's talk OU. We're headed into the SEC, coming off a big home win. We covered, by the way, 3-0. College game day is coming to Norman this week. Peyton Manning is the special guest picker. Yes, from the enemy team, they're getting a special guest picker, but they did have Baker last year for OU Texas. So I can see that happening. First, let's hit last Saturday's game, though. Big day for Danny Stutzman. Man, how many tackles has he had now?
Well, 300 total.
Yeah, that's
insane.
Huge.
Insane. 300 total, 12 on the day. He had 6 solo. I just remember sitting in the stadium and I'm looking at my dad like, he's everywhere. He's all over the place. He's everywhere. And so, like, I really do think that Danny Stutzman is going to be a linebacker that has a future on Sundays. I really do. He's
no
that
doubt.
Good. He got a game ball after the game. Yeah. And, it's crazy because we've heard the Unc say it so far this year. He may have a better year and have less tackles. And I'm starting to wonder, is he going to have less tackles because he's just that dominant? Our defense got better and he's still that dominant.
He's really fun to watch. I mean, he's very reminiscent of the Boz. He does have the haircut. I was going to say he doesn't have the haircut, but he does have the haircut. It's not as controversial to be the guy that Danny Stutzman is now than it was for Brian Bosworth to be Brian Bosworth back then.
Right.
And it's funny because he lives here close to where I live now. I live close to Austin, and it's just interesting that he lives in Austin as much as he absolutely hates Texas. Funny story is I was doing a filming one day with the Women of Austin podcast, and I have a customized Yeti with the horns upside down on it. And ironically, my wife, who is a Longhorn fan, bought it for Christmas. But I had it with me, and one of the ladies asked what it was. And I told her, I said, I'm an Oklahoma fan. She's like, oh, do you know who Brian Bosworth is? Like, yes, I do. And she goes, my business owner is his wife. Or my business partner is his wife. And I said, do me a favor right now. Take a picture of this and send it to them. She did. And he just wrote back Boomer. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's weird that he's
that's
so
awesome. And you mentioned, like, it's weird being somebody that hates Texas, obviously loves Oklahoma, living there. But you got to wonder, there's got to be something about, like, being the villain in that town has to be a lot of fun. It's got to be a blast.
Has to be, yeah. Last week we discussed what things we would, hope to see, if any, to, feel better about going into the SEC and specifically headed into this Tennessee game. Dalton, did you see enough improvement from Oklahoma, and do you feel more confident as we head into Saturday?
I I feel like the answer is a little split there because I don't know that I would say that we saw enough improvement, but I do think we saw a lot of improvement, and I do feel a lot more confident. And some of it has to do with the praise that this defense is getting. I mean, one of the Tulane defensive coaches, offensive coaches, worked in the SEC for a couple years. He's on year 2 at Tulane, and he expressed to their head coach after the game that this is a legit SEC defense. It's the best defense that they've faced. They've faced many. I mean, Tulane's, they're a very good group of 5 team, and they've faced a lot of Power 4 teams. So that's high praise. It's just, we don't know for sure, I don't think, how good this defense is. The improvements that we wanted to see, however, were on the offensive side of the ball. And it really was around our quarterback, Jackson Arnold, number 1 pick in his class, 5-star quarterback. And then can the offensive line create some holes? Are we going to see a running back really emerge as the every down back? And we saw some of that this week. Jackson Arnold had a better game, in my opinion. I still think that he's not 100% confident throwing the ball or 100% confident in the pocket. But our very first drive, 70 yards down the field, he's in command, gets us in the end zone. It's exactly what you wanted to see. He finished 18 for 29, 169 yards. He had a touchdown. Also had an interception.
He did.
Also was a pick 6. Those are things that you don't want to see from your quarterback, but he's a freshman. He's young. I don't think we can expect him to be perfect.
His composure after that, when he came back on the field, was much higher than what I would expect from a freshman, though, as well. And I thought that it was, they say that a quarterback has to have a short memory when it comes to things like that. It felt like Jackson had a short memory on that interception. We get the feeling that our D, we're homers here. We do talk about other sports. We say yes, for sure we are. But I get the feeling that OU's D is ready for the task. At least we're feeling confident. At least, how exactly good do you feel that the Vols offense is, though?
And I think that this is where the question comes into how good is our defense, because I think that Tennessee's offense is the real deal. Okay, they're outscoring their opponents 191-13 so far this season. I don't know for sure if I'm going to pronounce this name right. Lamalieva, the quarterback for Tennessee. He's completing 71% of his passes. He's thrown for already 698 yards. He's 2 yards away from already 700. He's 1 game away from a 1,000-yard passing season. Wow. He's averaging 10 yards per pass. He's got a 59-yard touchdown is his long, but he's also thrown 53, 38, 39, 47. I mean, he's got multiple long balls, so they have explosive plays. He's got 6 touchdowns. The interesting thing is, and where it makes you confident if you're an OU fan, is in their biggest game of the season against NC State, a game they blew out. He did throw 2 interceptions, and Oklahoma is currently taking the ball away, and we know that. So that's something that can give Oklahoma confidence. But they've got 3 rushers who have over 35-yard runs on their own this season that are outside the quarterback. Sampson and Bishop have a 56 and a 53-yard rush. They've got on the outside Thornton Jr. and Brazel II are playmakers. They're long ball threats. They're going to get down the field. Is our secondary going to be healthy enough to stop that threat? Tulane said that this defense is a legit SEC defense, and I think that this Heupel offense is a legit, what would you say, quote unquote, high power Big 12, Pac-12 offense. Spread it out, get it down the field, play quick. So it's 2 really good sides of the ball going at it. I think we're about to find out just how good our defense is.
Can our offense see the end zone enough and our defense hold Tennessee enough to win this game in the end?
And it's crazy. We're 100% efficient in the red zone right now in scoring. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's something that we really need to to realize as fans, just as a fan base, Sooner Nation, if we can get the ball down the field, we're going to score. It's just a matter of being able to move the football. We talked about it last week that after week 1, Brent Venables said we didn't move the ball downfield by design. We didn't see it again against Houston, and I don't think that was by design. Last week, we saw us move the ball downfield. I think time of possession is really important in this game against Tennessee.
Yeah, which wasn't in our favor in this game this past week either.
No, it was better, though. It was improvement. That was
way
one of
better.
the ways
Yeah,
we improved.
absolutely.
That's one of the ways we improved. We can't play Tennessee and lose time of possession 35-10 because we're seeing that though our defense is really good, there's going to be some plays given up. There's going to be drives given up. And they're showing us that they may bend a little, but they're not going to break. What does an offense really expect? What does a head coach, what does a team really expect, though, if they're on the field for 30 minutes of a 45-minute game?
Yeah, for sure. I got a clip here of Coach Heupel. I wanted to play for you.
What should they expect in terms of atmosphere and crowd noise at Oklahoma?
Should be a great crowd. It's a passionate fan base. I'm expecting them to be extremely quiet for us out of respect to me and our program, too. So.
He's got jokes. Coach has got jokes. But I do wonder what kind of reception it's going to be. Are we going to, as Oklahoma fans, speaking here and collectively, those in Norman, come Saturday in prime time on ABC, are they going to, in some way, kind of say thank you to Josh at the beginning of the game, or is it you're on that side, we're on this side? Let's bust some heads. What are you thinking?
I still think that our fans are going to boo. I mean, we booed Tulane, for crying out loud. We booed Houston. We booed Temple. I think the moment that they leave that tunnel, it's going to be,
game's on.
You're in Norman now, and everybody in that stadium wearing crimson and cream expects to win. I think that we all appreciate Josh Heupel for what he's done, and we respect the heck out of what he's doing at Tennessee. I mean, Josh Heupel won the last national title in Norman.
That's right.
And that was a long time ago. And I think that we truly do appreciate what he's done for the university. And he's got jokes, but he's coming into Norman to win.
Yes, he is.
He's not coming into Norman to be welcomed back. He's not coming into Norman so that he can, have all these memories from what he did in the past. He's a Tennessee Volunteer now. He's not an Oklahoma Sooner, and he's coming in to win this game. And I think that, he's got a good approach to it, and it's a homecoming for him in a way, but right now for him, home is Tennessee. And that's who he's coming in and trying to defeat the team that he won a natty with.
You're exactly right. It's going to be a fun day on Saturday for Oklahoma fans. You get to start your day with OU. You get to end your day with OU. It's going to be fun for Tennessee fans because of the same thing. You're going to get to start your day and end your day with your favorite team.
And I've been wondering, and you can tell me from your perspective, because being in the stadium now for our games so far, I'm not sure we're SEC ready as a fan base.
I wondered that last year when I went. I got to go to one home game last year, and I thought the same thing.
It was Tulane, and to be honest, even this last week, there was a chance, there was a time where it looked like Oklahoma was going to blow the game wide open, but our student section was more than half empty at halftime.
Unacceptable. I don't get that at all.
And, just to be honest, if you listen in section 39, there's only a handful of us standing and yelling the entire game. And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like if we expect our team to raise our level, I really was hoping that Brent Venables would call the stadium out. Danny Stutzman would call the stadium out. I mean, you remember back when Bob Stoops called the entire fan base out when Texas Tech came to town. Michael Crabtree was their receiver, and they were, they just upset Texas, and it was a blowout, like 65-14. It was they start the game off with a pick six, and jump around made its berth in the stadium, and it was just nuts in there. That's what every SEC look at Georgia this past weekend, and I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but Kentucky was that fan base was on fire the entire game after just losing at home like 41-10 to South Carolina. Like the SEC is just different when it comes to fan bases. And I'm really curious to see if this stadium is going to be rocking or not.
I am too, and I think that let's pencil that in for a conversation next week when B is back, and see how we did at the Tennessee game, our very first SEC game. See how the stadium responds, the fans respond to what very likely could be a close game all the way up to the very end, which, I hope it is, and I hope it goes in our favor. But I'm anxious to see how the student section responds to being in prime time. I mean, if you like this kind of stuff, you like ESPN College Game Day coming to your city, if you like being in the spotlight at 7 o'clock or 7:30, whatever it is, on Saturday night on ABC, you got to be there and you got to bring the heat. And that's not just for the guys on the field. That's for the fans in the stands as well. But I have some feelings on this, and I would like to break them down with both of you guys coming up next week. So let's pencil that in and talk about fan bases. Right now, let's jump over to the top 10. Let's break down the top 10. I'm going to kick things off with number 10. It's Penn State coming off a scare at home against Bowling Green. Are the Nittany Lions maybe a bit overranked right now? What's your opinion, Dalton?
I believe so. I really do. I think that, in my opinion, the Big Ten has always been, well, I shouldn't say always. I should say for the college football playoff era, the Big Ten has been Michigan and Ohio State, and they're in their own tier. And then there's, the Penn State, the Iowa every now and then. And then it used to be Wisconsin kind of right there in the middle. And then everybody else just kind of behind that. And I think that sometimes they just get a little bit too much love because they've been able to dominate everybody in the Big Ten outside of Michigan and Ohio State. And I just, I don't think they played well against West Virginia. They obviously didn't play well at home. Happy Valley, the stadium is so much fun to watch when their fan base, when they do the whiteout in that stadium, man, it's a lot of fun to watch. But to beat Bowling Green 34-27 at home has got to give you some nerves, I think, if you are a Penn State fan. It's kind of weird, right? Like they have over 500 yards of total offense. You score, enough points. Is it truly a defensive side of the ball? That is the issue. I don't know. The problem is they get a chance to tune up next week, right, against Kent State. Yeah. And Kent State, they're just not good. They're 0-3. They're getting blown out by every team they play. You would expect Penn State to do it. But, I think at the end of the year, the committee always does a good job. And you'll hear us say this all year long, that the top 4 teams in the past have always been right. Like it's been the top 4 teams. These early rankings are always really interesting to me, though, because sometimes teams get respect that didn't prove it, and then teams that aren't getting respect are doing things that it's like, okay, something's off in these rankings. I really do. I think Penn State's overrated. I don't think they're a top 12 football team right now, and I think that they dropped down from 8 to 9 or 8 to 10, but
did they belong to 8?
Yeah, they've been given a lot of love that they don't deserve in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Number 9, Oregon, a little sentimental attachment here to this one, coming off a big win in a rivalry game. Dylan Gabriel still putting up numbers, and they're finally translated those numbers into points. Did it just take a couple of games to get them primed and up and rolling? And where do you go from here if you're Oregon?
I think so. I mean, this offense is going to be good as long. I mean, I think that we know it. Like this offense has been consistent in the way they're producing. I mean, Dylan Gabriel is still on pace to win the Heisman. And I think I really, the weird thing about it, Ant, is how do you throw for, almost 500 yards in a game and have 14 points to show for it? You know what I mean? Like that is just, it's bizarre.
Where are you throwing the ball
to finish? Yeah. Like
not the end zone.
Crazy how but in a rivalry game, probably a pretty weird rivalry game now. I could imagine, one team's in the Big Ten, one team is in limbo. And so it's probably not got as much meaning behind it, but to come out 49-14, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, 20 for 24, super efficient.
That's
291 yards, 2 touchdowns, 240 team rushing yards. I mean, their offense is just clicking. And I think that Oregon has a chance to be a top 3 team for sure in the Big Ten. I think they're where they need to be in the rankings. And I think where they go from here is they continue to win. They're really not going to be tested, in my opinion, other than Ohio State and USC.
Party in the club till the break of dawn. Welcome to Miami at number 8. Is Miami the early favorite to win the ACC, in your opinion?
Have to be. Honestly, I think it's time that it could be a real conversation about what's a better football conference right now, the ACC or the Big 12. Because if Mario Neal the ball and his Miami Hurricanes are finally going to be the real deal in the ACC in a year where Florida State is one of the worst teams in college football, where Clemson still can't figure out how to operate in the era of NIL and transfer portal. Georgia Tech was supposed to be like, hey man, are they the real deal? Well, then we learned pretty quickly that Florida State just wasn't any good. I think it really comes down to, at this point, potentially a Boston College in Miami. Who would have thought that in the ACC? Right. Yeah, so I do think that Miami is where they need to be. I think that right now they're proving themselves, and they really control their own destiny, in my opinion, as far as getting a bye in the playoff. I mean, all they need to do at this point is take care of conference wins, and they cannot look ahead because they're going to have some conference games they should win by 4, 5, 6 touchdowns.
Number 7, Missouri, or is it Missouri? Who knows?
Right, coming off with this, and we got this is it right here, man. What pisses Dalton off?
Okay. All right. And I knew it was coming. I just no win.
This is the only time that you'll probably get this segment, because it's my favorite segment. It's Unk's segment. It's what pisses Brandon off. But we just talked about. I just mentioned this team, Boston College, right? They're the second best team right now, in my opinion, in the ACC. Make this make sense, okay? When we talk about all these early rankings, Texas goes on the road against what everybody still believed was a top 3 team in Michigan. And I mean, Texas absolutely dominates them. It's not a football game. It should have never been big noon kickoff, college game day, any of that. Like, it wasn't even fun. I really still to this day think Michigan was trying to just figure out what to do every single snap. Their game plan didn't work. Like, I don't think they're in shambles right now. I really don't think they know where to go forward. So Texas gets a lot of love for going on the road and beating a really bad Michigan. Michigan is still getting a lot of love and staying in the top 25. All right. Florida State and Castellanos, who are really good this year. If you haven't watched him play, honestly, Castellanos looks a lot like Kyler Murray. Not as good as Kyler Murray, but he's just got that quick feet in the pocket. He gets away. He's faster than the defense. Fun to watch, can make explosive plays, goes on the road and beats a bad team. Same as Texas, goes on the road and beats a bad team. Okay. That same team, though, Florida State, they're no longer getting love because they're 0-3. Michigan very well could be 0-3. They're just playing better teams. And then a second top 10 team, they go on the road this past week to Missouri, and they lose 27-21 in a game they could have won, and Boston College completely drops from the rankings?
Wow.
How is that even possible? You've got one top 10 win, and then you've got a top 10 loss on the road by less than a touchdown. And there's teams in the top 25 who have a lot. Notre Dame loses at home. And you're telling me right now they're better than Boston College? This is where I said I believe that at the end of the year, the top 12 teams will be in.
Yeah.
But right now, it doesn't make any sense. And I feel like this hurts Boston College's case moving forward. Every single week, they're trying to battle for respect now. When are they going to get it?
Well, and that's what I was going to ask, is that all of this is conjecture until when? when does it actually start really making a difference? You think it really starts making a difference as they enter conference play?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just because at that point you're fighting. I mean, the Power Four conference, Boston College wins the conference, then they're guaranteed a spot in. But it's almost like you're limiting them. I mean, what if they are really good and them? It comes down to them in Miami. Well, they haven't been getting respect all year. They lose to Miami in a close game. Is the committee going to put them in?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, Missouri ended up dropping 1, but they're still a top 10 team.
I don't
get it.
You have a viable case for being pissed off. You're not as passionate as BS is, but I feel you though.
Yeah, it's a different type of piss off. This isn't about a rule or it's just about like
you're exactly right.
It's just there's no consistency.
Yeah.
In when a team gets love from the AP committee and the voters and when they don't. And I said last week, I am not convinced. I mean, this is the first time that in the history of the AP, the top 7 teams or the top 8 teams have 7 in one conference, and that's the SEC. So, but why is Missouri? Why is everybody buying into Missouri? If Boston College isn't that good, then why is Missouri still number 7? If Missouri could barely beat them.
I've wondered a lot of the same thing as you have, not necessarily about Boston College, but specifically about Missouri. I'm like, what am I missing from Missouri that puts them at number 7? Is that maybe I just haven't watched enough and don't know enough? But
their quarterback is really good. Cook is really good.
Yeah.
He's a very good quarterback, 720 yards. He's 1 game away from a 1,000-yard season already.
Yeah.
I could imagine if he continues that, he will be in talks for a Heisman. He's completing, 71% of his passes. The weird thing is on the season, he's only got 2 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know how much of a gamer he is. And I'm not buying stock into Missouri until they beat somebody real and somebody good. And I guess that's what the committee's saying. You didn't beat anybody good, but then why are you still the number 7 team in the nation? Yeah. I feel like they're a little bit in Penn State's boat right now, but that's just me. That's the number 7 team. They shouldn't be number 7.
Yeah.
I'm all for the SEC, but they've given me no reason to believe they're better than somebody else.
Number 6, the Tennessee Volunteers. We've talked enough about Tennessee already, but you feel good about them at that number 6 spot?
Yeah, they're good. Their offense is good. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat by what they're beating them by. I mean, they're the real deal, and that's why I'm excited about this week, because we get a chance to see if our defense is the real deal.
Before we jump into the top 5, I want to thank you guys for checking this out. And this is our very first episode on YouTube. So if you're stumbling across this right now, you're enjoying what we're talking about, love that you hit subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss every one of these. Comes out every midweek, every Wednesday right here on YouTube. You can also watch if let's say you're on Facebook right now watching and you're like, oh, cool, you guys are on YouTube now? Yeah, absolutely. Come over and join us and hit subscribe and don't miss an episode. All right, time to jump into the top 5 of this top 10. Ole Miss, they are playing dominant football and have Georgia Southern coming up this week. However, trust me, rumors of a coaching move can distract a team. One, Dalton, do you feel that there are any truths to this rumor that Florida is eyeing Lane Kiffin? And if so, how much is that a distraction to the team right now?
I think that they're probably pretty used to it over there at Ole Miss, because his name was thrown around all last year for different jobs. And especially that Bama job when it came open, when it started getting word out that, hey, Nick Saban might be retiring.
Yeah. That's the one I thought he would do. I thought he would go to that one.
I respect the fact that if they called him and he said, no, I really respect it, because it's kind of like that's Alabama and Georgia. Those are the 2 teams that he's yet to prove that he is better than.
Yep.
And I personally believe that this is the year he is. And honestly, that's not just because Nick Saban retired. I really do believe that he's continued to build at Ole Miss. And I'm not sure. Do you want to start over at Florida? You
Yeah,
know,
I know.
I mean,
I know.
you're rolling.
Build
You've
from
had
the
the
ground
best
up.
offense in the nation for this will be the third year now. Like, this offense is a high power offense. Jackson Dart is a legit quarterback. This is my pick to win the national championship.
Okay.
This year was Ole Miss, and I had them winning the SEC. I'm all for taking a better job,
Sure.
but he's turned. You know, I had a coach one time. He was giving me advice, and he had said it's never a bad thing to turn a bad job into a good job.
Sure.
And he's turned Ole Miss into a good job.
Do
Now,
you
if
want
he
to do that again in
leaves,
Florida, though? Yeah.
right? Florida
Yeah.
just. It's been a while since they've been good, and maybe their facilities are better. Maybe the money there is better. Maybe the recruiting land is better. Maybe you just want to live in Florida. But to me, you've got Ole Miss rolling, and I understand they're number 5 right now. I would put them up in that 2-3 range if it were up to me, because I think
Sure.
that Ole Miss is that good. Now, we haven't seen them play anybody yet, and we're not really going to know anything until conference play. But I don't see anybody slowing them down. You're going to have to outscore them.
Yeah. Yeah, you really are. Number 4 is Alabama. They come off a win at Wisconsin, though they struggled early against South Florida. They adjusted and really dominated in that game. It's clear that this guy can coach some football. They enter a bye week before Georgia enters Tuscaloosa. You think that bye week is coming at a good time for Alabama, especially seeing Georgia struggle against Kentucky on Saturday?
You know, I can't. In my mind, I guess, as somebody on the complete outside of this, I feel like it's not a great time for it, because now, you know, there's been all these questions all year long. Can he replace the GOAT? Can he continue to win at Alabama the way Nick Saban did? Can the mentality of Alabama football stay the same? And you're doing it, right? Like he beat South Florida this year, you know, better than what they did last year. Last year against South Florida, even with Saban, they struggled. And that's the game Saban had to bench Milroe, and then Milroe had to get the job back and all that stuff. So he's doing a phenomenal job in the early start here. And then you see a team in Georgia really struggle on the road at Kentucky. Just goes to show how tough the SEC is, regardless of where you're at. I mean, your fan base, if they're in it, you're in it. And that's why I'm like, man, now he's got a full week for people to just start questioning things. Like, okay, is he ready for Georgia? Is he ready for the big game? Can this team handle, you know? So I feel like it came at a bad time. And the tough part is Georgia has their bye week the exact same time. So now they just get to both sit and watch and wait and scout and prepare. And it's almost like that week before the championship game, where all this anticipation just builds up to it. You have the media day, because you already know the media is going to be going crazy in Tuscaloosa this week and next week, trying to figure out, are we ready for this game? So I don't feel like it came at a good time, but you can't really control those things. And it's one that's, you know, we'll obviously talk a little bit more about next week, just because it is going to be a big game. I would assume game day is going to be there for that one. And it's going to let everybody know real quick, like, is he ready for big time SEC football?
We'll find out soon enough. The Buckeyes are sitting at number 3. They've yet to play, you know, a good team, really. They host Marshall coming up next week. Will we know if they're legit before they get to, you know, really diving into any Big Ten play?
No, we won't.
Have to wait till then.
Yeah, I've still questioned how good Will Howard's going to be. Will Howard is the transfer from Kansas State, who kind of, in a way, was ran out. And I thought that was an interesting pickup. He's not a bad quarterback, and he's obviously playing really well right now at Ohio State. But you've only played 2 games, and you're coming off of a bye week. You get Marshall now, who's 1-1. You're going to dominate them at home. You're going to go on the road and play a Michigan State team. Are they back on the rise? We don't, we're not really sure. They're 3-0 right now. Yeah. And the one we're looking forward to for Ohio State is 3 weeks from now. They get a chance to go up to the new Big Ten and play Oregon on the road. And that's the one we're really looking forward to, I think, as just college football fans, because there's just so much left unknown when you're playing teams that are just not at your level. I mean, Ohio State's supposed to be winning these games, whether they have a good quarterback or not. And so Will Howard, he's good enough right now. Is he good enough to win the big ones? I don't know, because he wasn't at K-State.
We talked about Alabama and their bye week. It's time to jump to Georgia because they're sitting at number 2. And you think that maybe they overlooked Kentucky? At first, we've always wondered, like, okay, who's going to beat Georgia? Who's going to beat Georgia? Who's going to beat Georgia? And we almost got to see Kentucky beat Georgia. Did they overlook Kentucky going into their bye week before they take on Alabama?
No. I mean, I listened to Kirby Smart talk, and of course, all of the coaches have the best coach talk. The reason I say no, though, is because they had a bye week coming up. It wasn't like they get through Kentucky and then go right into Bama week. Right. He just talked about how this is what a road game. I mean, the crowd was insane. There's already issues with the mics where they can't hear. And the crowd was at that level that it was really hard for Carson Beck to hear. He was missing throws. He didn't play well. And he's always been a very well at managing the game, making the right throws, making the right reads, getting everybody where they need to be, knowing what the tempo of the offense needed to be. And I just think it was one of those games they caught Kentucky at the right time. Yeah. Kentucky was obviously there's a lot of emotion there. Vandergraff, he starting quarterback for Kentucky, was the starter at Georgia. They're killing it, doing really well. He gets hurt. Carson Beck comes in. Carson Beck's doing really well. Smart made the decision to stay with Carson Beck. So then Vandergraff, he stuck it out. It's kind of like a Jalen Hurts situation. He sticks it out. He was on the national title teams, and then it was finally time for him to go find his. So he had a lot of emotion, I think, in that game because he lost his job to Georgia, and now he's got a chance to beat them in his final college football season. So I think they caught Kentucky at the right time. I think that Georgia will bounce back and they're fine. And we've heard the Unks say it all the time. The old wrestling quote, and I'm not a wrestling guy, so you're going to know who this is and I won't, but to be the man, you got to beat the man. And they still did not beat the man.
That's right.
Georgia should be the number 1 team in the nation, in my opinion.
For trivia night, it's Ric Flair, by the way.
Right, there we go, for trivia night.
That's right. Number 1, the University of Texas, playing dominant football right now, even without Quinn Ewers. Manning played, out of his mind for his first real minutes with 223 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. I didn't watch this game, but I flipped over and I saw that stat and I was like, how long has he been in? And it hadn't been long. When Ewers gets healthy, I'm wondering, do we have a quarterback battle? Now, I want to kind of give you a little bit of my thought here because it reminds me is not really the right word. I think it is what we would have right now if Dylan Gabriel had stayed. We have, because I wondered what would happen. Would this be what Oklahoma would look like right now if Dylan had stayed? Would it reflect what Texas is in the middle of right now? Now, do you think when Ewers comes back, there's going to be a little issue? Who's the team going to follow? The guy who comes in and lights everything up, or the tried and true workhorse that has been there for a while? What do you think?
I think it comes down to how well Sark can communicate his vision for who needs to lead the offense at the time. Sark's going to have a feel for the team. He's going to have a feel for who they want to follow at this point, because you don't want to have a locker room issue when your team is apparently the number 1 team in the country. And even without Quinn Ewers as your starting quarterback, if Manning continues to play like that, and when Ewers does come back, you're still going to be undefeated. You're still going to be number 1 in the nation. So I think that, yes, there is going to be not necessarily a controversy, but it's literally what we just mentioned. Vandergraff, starter at Georgia, gets hurt, sits, 3-4 weeks, comes back. Job's no longer his. I think that you definitely see a quarterback battle in Austin.
Yeah.
And it really just comes down to, can Manning continue to play as well as he's playing? He will this week. Louisiana Monroe, expect him to throw for 500 yards, especially at home, because now the fan base knows what they're getting. Yeah. So they're going to be absolutely lit for him to be the quarterback. I think they've been waiting for it, to be completely honest with you. Then they're going to play a really bad Mississippi State at home. So Manning's going to light it up for the next couple weeks. It's really interesting. What I could see happening is Quinn Ewers getting healthy the bye week before Red River, and that being the talk of Red River.
The game.
Who's the quarterback for Texas?
Yep.
And I personally love that. I don't think that it changes much for OU, because, to be completely honest with you, both of them sling the thing. Both of them are really good, it looks like. And so, I definitely think we see a quarterback battle. And I have no idea what Sark's going to decide.
It's going to be interesting. We'd love to know your thoughts on this top 10 as well. Wherever you're watching right now, drop us a comment. Let us know what you think about any of these. Does Texas belong in the number one spot? Anybody that should have gotten into the top 10 that is not there? We'd love to hear what you think about it all. Drop a comment here on YouTube or on Facebook or wherever you're watching right now. All right. So I got a little education this week. And I asked before these guys asked me to be a part of the podcast, and I asked what I could bring to the table. One of those things was not how to bet, because I am clueless. I'll tell you, when I go to Vegas, I kind of look at the tables. I like walking around. I like seeing people win. That's really cool. I absolutely hate to lose. So gambling is really out of the question for me most of the time. If I go to Vegas, it's usually like, hey, you want to go shopping? I'd like to know that my money is going to at least come back to me in some form. If it's if it's a new shirt, new pants, new pair of shoes, new ball cap, whatever it is, that's how I like to gamble my money, not losing it on a game. However, I did get a little education this week from Dalton on what locks, what picks, how to bet the spread. I'm still a little confused because I'm just getting into it, but I'm glad to learn, and I'm glad that I have some guys that know what they're talking about on this. So it's time to jump into the picks of the week. Dalton, you want to give us a little recap of last week's picks?
Yeah, so it was a good week for me, Ant. It was a great week for me. I was able to get another points on him, which I need all the points I can get. So he had picked Texas to cover the 35 over Texas San Antonio, and he won that pretty big. He had picked Ole Miss to cover the 23.5, and he won that pretty big. His master lock, though, which he would have doubled if he won, was Georgia to cover 24 over Kentucky, and we all know that did not happen. The game I lost was Arizona to cover 7.5 up here in Manhattan against Kansas State, and Kansas State kind of rolled them a little bit. But I did have Boston College covering the 17, and they almost won outright, so I won that one. And then I had South Carolina +7 against LSU. They lost the game outright, but they only lost the game by 3. So I did win that one. He got 2 points. I got 3 points. I'm back up 10-8 on the season.
All right, cool. 10-8 already. Week 3 going into week 4. All right. What are we looking at this week?
So we're actually going to start off. It's different this week because he sent me his picks, which, obviously he's, like you said, in a hammock. Hopefully, doing well.
Hopefully his pants are on too. That's what
we hope.
Yeah.
So his first pick of the week, he's going to take Tennessee -7.5. We talked about, this offense is just really good, and there's just not enough for us to know right now, can Oklahoma get it done? For any fan out there, that does not mean that he does not love the Sooners or does not believe in the Sooners. It's just an honest assessment about where Oklahoma's at right now. So he's taking Tennessee for his first pick -7.5.
And it's one that he'll be losing as well.
And Man, we hope it. And actually cut that. It dropped to 7. So now it's just a 7-point spread.
Okay.
So Tennessee to cover the 7. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Ant, I've been pretty negative myself about Oklahoma. And I'm trying not to be, because I don't want to be that guy. I think that our questions are, I think they're acceptable, but I'm actually going to go opposite of his pick for this first one.
Nice. Okay.
I'm a little hopeful. I want to be hopeful. I really thought we did see some improvement. And, I was thinking about this too, about Jackson Arnold, is he did sit last year and watch. So you would expect him to mature from being able to do that. The problem is it's almost a wash, because he watched a different system, a different coach. He stepped into almost a brand new freshman year because he got everything new thrown at him. So he didn't get to just, pick up what he learned. He had to learn a lot of new things. And I think that I'm hoping that we see a few more wrinkles thrown in, that we can get our offense, moving a little bit into a better rhythm. And I'm going to lean on our defense. So give me Oklahoma to cover the 7 for my first pick.
All right. Very cool. All right. You got the rest of his picks as well, right?
I do. Okay. So this pick is going to be interesting. And actually, we do have the exact same pick here.
Okay.
But what's interesting about it is we're not sure yet if Cam Rising is playing. And so I've agreed with him that if Cam Rising is not playing, we can change our pick. So for now, the pick is going to be for Utah to cover the 3. Oklahoma State's currently favored, and I need to check that since our game actually changed. It's 2 now. So Utah is favored by 2. He's taking that. I'm taking that. I would imagine that something's come out about Cam Rising for that spread to change to that. But if it changes, just know those picks are going to change as well. But right now, we're both taking Utah on the road in Stillwater to cover the 2 points.
All right. Looking forward to that. And that game is in Utah?
No, that game's in Stillwater. Yeah.
Okay.
The Big 12 wasn't going to send Oklahoma State to Utah this year. Come on now. Why would they do that?
That's true.
That's too
true.
hard.
Very true, yeah.
That's too tough of a road for their new golden boy.
They send Baylor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. For Baylor to hurt Cam Rising.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, we ready for the master lock?
Here's the master lock.
This is so weird giving both picks.
Yeah, right.
He's never allowed to go to vacation again.
Ever.
So his master lock is a very safe pick. It's USC -5.5 on the road at Michigan.
Okay.
And we've had no reason to believe that Michigan is any good. So how is USC only favored by 5.5? And when you look at all the spreads this week, it's like you almost have to pick that one. I'm going to go with a different game for my master lock, though. I'm gonna go up to. It's the one time I'm going to do it. The one time. If they fail me, I'm never picking them again. I'm going to go up to Lincoln, and I'm going to pick Nebraska to cover 7.5 over Illinois. I think that Dylan Raiola is the real deal. I really do. I think Matt Rule, he's done it everywhere he's been. Give him a couple years, and by year 2, year 3, his system's established. They're winning games big. And what I love about Matt Rule is even when they win in a handling matter last week over Northern Iowa, he comes out and he's like, it was sloppy. We didn't do our job.
Yeah.
We didn't have, I like that mindset in a coach when it's like, all right, things are good, but we're 3 games in. We have not arrived. And so I like Nebraska right now. I think that they're really close to being in that top tier of the Big Ten. So for my master lock, give me Nebraska and Dylan Raiola to cover that 7.5 at home.
Okay. All right. Well, we're looking forward to going over all of these next week when Brandon is back. And I mentioned this is our first time. This is our first video on YouTube, and it's our first midweek college football breakdown on our new YouTube channel. And it's not even the complete show. So looking forward to you seeing the complete show coming up next week when Brandon is back, going over all these and giving brand new picks next week as well. It's going to be fun, man. I had a great time hanging out with you today.
Yeah, this was awesome. Like you said, we missed Unc, but great time hanging out, and we're excited about the direction of where we're headed. Excited to be on YouTube. So, like you said, make sure you hit subscribe, follow us, and check us out and interact with us. Let you know what you think about the top 10 and about these picks. Of course, I'm going to win the picks. So
And give us yours as well. You got some picks you want, something we didn't mention here. You give us your picks on there as well.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
You know what they say. The weekend is good, and it's going to be a good weekend this weekend. It's a lot of football to watch. It's going to be fun. But the midweek is always better.
And boom goes the dynamite.